Ooh.
You did a great job. I could see those anti-harmonies just coming right through.
So this is
epic.
not equating to Om at the end of a yoga class.
Yeah, everyone sing. Just everyone Om at the end.
You do sometimes have that in yoga classes, though. Like, sometimes the Om is so in harmony and it, like, just reverberates through your body and you feel amazing. And then sometimes you have this one person in the class that's just, like, so off. And you're like, ooh, that was not calming.
just that noise.
I'm usually that person, so, and I'm leading it. So that's usually how ohms go.
That and happy birthday. Can I just say, when people are like, okay, Om, and like when I used to do that, I'd be like, okay, and I'd try and like just match them. But then when I see people doing happy birthdays, like especially if you've gone to theater school and you're like, it is also already the hardest song because it's like a full octave jump, and then people go, and then they realize that they've made a grave error in where they've started. And so when it goes da 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 da, and they're just like screeching and no one can match pitch because they're all not singers. It's just, and then it's in public.
And it sounds kind of sad a lot of times. Like, people are like, happy birthday to you. And you're like, oh my.
Yeah, you're like, why would you descend?
Like, I feel like I just aged 20 years on your song.
Yeah, it's just so, it's like this weird, like, anticlimactic event that happens. People bringing out the cake. Nowadays, people are like, someone's going to blow on this cake. We're going to all get COVID. And then at the same time, people are like, happy birthday. And the person sitting there is like subscribed to an ageist society that's like, I'm old, no one wins.
Fire things, like back in the day they had those little things and you would squeeze it and it would blow on the fire so that you weren't having your mouth near it. That's what we need now in COVID days for candles, like a little
billows things.
Yeah, those little, I don't know what they're called, but they're little breathy things so you're not putting your mouth on the on the cake.
There is like an age and stage where birthdays start becoming this sad event, though. I don't know exactly what age and stage it is, but it does.
I think we all just need to own our birthdays. Like, when I turned 29, I started getting that whole, actually when I turned like 20, I was like, I'm gonna be 30 in 10 years, this is so terrifying. And then as I got closer, when I turned 29, I was like, nah, I'm owning this. And then I started just making my birthdays wildly exciting with travel and festivals and whatever. Each time I tried to like up the ante, and now I love it. I love aging. Sorry,
just to clarify, is every day your birthday? Because literally that is just your entire life. You're like,
not festivals. It's COVID.
Oh, right. Well, apart from the festivals,
travel a lot. I do travel a lot.
Raquel is living the best adventure life.
Well, because I'm in my 30s now, so we have to up the ante. So, you know, I need to make my 30s better than my 20s, which were better than my 10s. What's before 20s?
Your 10s. That's what they were, yeah.
Anyways, we haven't even introduced Prestonne. Prestonne, I'm so freaking excited that you are here today. I met you once, like a week ago, and I fell in love, and I was like, you're coming on my next recording. Because this will be the last recording for like 2 months.
Yes.
But I am so in love with you. We met because she owns a yoga studio that I have been going to and now since have been taking Jean to. And we met doing a couples yoga workshop. While I was doing it, you were leading it. I'm so excited to have you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And the feeling is very mutual. Girl crushes all around.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
It's the song. We got her on the song.
Yes.
The equivalent of peacocking. Listen to this really out of tune singing. You will love us.
You'll fall in love. We're weird.
When you sing together, your body secretes oxytocin. Did you know that? Right. The bonding hormone?
Yes, I did know that. This is what we're doing. Yeah.
This is how Raquel has in many ways Professor X'd me once more. She's like, let's sing this thing. And I'm like, I don't want to do a podcast. And then that's what happened.
Yeah.
The bonding hormone, just getting you to fall in love with her.
Oxytocin.
It's sneaky. It's sneaky. That's why we in yoga.
That's right.
Why you feel so good.
Oh, okay. So Raquel, are you gonna?
Oh yeah. I gotta introduce
You're gonna
you.
be
Hold
the
on.
actor. Yes, do it.
Hopefully I won't be acting, but I am going to introduce you.
Yes.
Okay. So 2014 January, it was a cold winter day when you and Nicole Whitman opened Yoga Generation in Coquitlam. Now you put on the whole acting thing, so I feel like
It's so great, though. I love this. I'm glad I did. Continue, please.
Bringing aerial yoga to the Tri-City area. First of all, aerial yoga is so freaking fun. We're going to get into that. I am so in love with it. The two of you have also since opened a second location in Pitt Meadows, which was the first one that I went to. Your goal as a yoga teacher is to inspire kindness, compassion, and gratitude towards others, and most importantly, towards yourself, which I can say from couples yoga is the case, because I heard you calling out some people like, we're giving massages with love, people, with love. just a reminder.
That'd be me.
Right?
Preston has completed over 500 hours in yoga teacher trainings. That's great. Specializing in hatha yoga, yin yoga, aerial yoga, prenatal and postnatal yoga. I would love to talk about that. And yoga nidra, which I feel like I know, but for some reason it's escaping me. What is yoga nidra again?
It's yogic sleep, so it's like guided sleep.
Amazing. So you're like an app, but people can go to you physically and get their guided sleep.
Yeah. You just lay in shavasana and talk them through a guided sleep, and you do fall asleep and you get into this dream-like state, but it's a deeper, different brain wave than your conscious mind.
Okay,
we gotta send
we're
Katie.
gonna no, don't talk about it. We're gonna get into that. Okay, Preston also holds a BA from SFU, which is Simon Fraser University here in Vancouver, where you studied communications, and this is must be why we love each other so much, because I also studied communications. /study communications. In Preston's class, you can expect to focus on pranayama, which is a breathing technique, and deepening the connection with your body, which works really well for the episode we just did, because we were talking about the mind-body connection with a physiotherapist, through breath. Come ready to play, laugh, relax, and rejuvenate your body through deep breathing and lots of stretching. Now I'm using my yoga voice. Preston encourages her students to listen to their bodies while simultaneously testing their limits and growing in both a physical and mental capacity. Welcome, Preston!
That's like my yoga bio.
I love it! I love it. And it's true. We did come to laugh, relax, rejuvenate, and play. It was so fun.
So I'm telling the truth on there.
You're definitely, like, I can attest to the fact that this is truth telling right now, not acting.
Thank you.
Okay, so tell us about how you got into yoga, because you started with your BA in comms. I mean, owning a business, you're still using all of those skills, but how did you basically go from what probably was going to be a trajectory towards a career in communications to pursuing yoga and then eventually opening your own studio?
Yeah. Okay. I graduated from SFU and I got what I kind of thought was my dream job. I was working for My Yoga Online, which is like a video yoga company, and they were started in Vancouver. So I was working, downtown Broadway in Granville, and I thought it was my dream job, and I ended up just kind of hating it. Like, I was doing the 9 to 5 commute and sitting at a desk all day. And although I was watching videos about yoga, I was still sitting in front of a computer all day. And I was teaching just 2 yoga classes a week at the time. Anyways, I decided to just quit the job, and I went backpacking in Asia for 2 months by myself to kind of find myself. And I found that anybody, because when you're traveling, everybody asks you, like, who are you? What do you do? What's your job? What do you love? And I just kept saying yoga. I'm a yoga teacher. That's what I do. And it just became really clear to me that that's what I wanted to focus on in life. And when I got home from traveling, I ran into Nicole, who's now my business partner, at a yoga class, and we went for coffee. And she said, I'm wanting to open a yoga studio and I'm looking for a partner. And we had done our 200-hour training. So I knew her that through that. And yeah, kind of the rest is history. We just went for it. We just both said yes and ran with it. And here we are. Now we've been married for like 8 years. Not actually married,
that. Your work life. This is so
yeah.
parallel to Christina and my relationship. That's basically what happened with us, but we're in the music industry. And it was the same thing. Like, we had met through a few events, this or that, and then eventually I was like, I want to do this thing. Well, we started in-person brunches.
Yeah.
And that happened for like 3 years. And then I came back and I was like, we need to do a podcast. And she was like, well, I do a lot of things. And I was like, yeah, but you're going to do this one because it's the best. And she was like, okay, let's do it.
This is why I say she Professor X'd me.
And you get to do this one with me. So obviously you're gonna choose this one. So
It is a marriage though. Like your partner, it's totally a marriage.
Yeah.
In so many ways, like not just financially, but emotionally. You're so tied.
Yeah.
You give them your best and your worst, and you're going through all these challenges together as your baby grows. Like it's totally a marriage.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Because we were talking about it the other day, Raquel and I had, what was it, Thursday? Because Raquel travels so much. And eventually I want to be traveling as well. But to navigate situations that you've never been in before with a team of people that you care a lot about, and then you both have equal like skin in this game, and there's no choice but to say yes. It's like a perpetual improv class where you're just like, I am going to accept this offer. Like Raquel's like, I'm going to be offline for a whole month. And I'm like, gonna have to figure it out. We're going to have to do this because what's the option? No other option. Like this. So it's, I'm glad you did that with someone else as well. Like it must be so fueling to be able to, I don't know, this is how I feel with Raquel, is that we balance each other out in some ways when we need to, and it's very contextual as well. So when you started with your partner, did you know that you wanted to, like, did you both sit down and create this vision, or like what was it, what did that conversation look like?
It was a lot of brainstorming sessions. Yeah, we both just knew that we wanted to open a yoga studio. That was the foundation. And then we decided to add aerial because we wanted something different. Essentially, neither one of us had even done an aerial class at the time. So, and there was nobody in Vancouver that was doing it. So we actually flew to Nashville to do our training in it and just dove into it. And then I bet that's kind of what put us on the map. That's how people know us, is we're an aerial studio. We actually have way more yoga classes than we do aerial, and aerial is yoga based, but yeah, I don't know. We just kind of ran with it. We weren't really thinking everything through, that I think that's how it kind of goes when you open your own business. It's like, let's just go for it. Let's just dive in. Let's just say yes to everything.
And the support systems that you had in place on both sides, can you, just because a lot of our audience members are entrepreneurs and creatorpreneurs, I like to say, and there are a lot of people who are working off the side of their desk, as Raquel says. I love that phrase where it's like these side hustles that become these bigger things. What were the support systems that you had in place where you were like, okay, I need this and this and this in order to start studio number one? Whether they're people or finance, or like, what did you do?
Yeah.
She's a risk taker. I can tell you right now. She was like, I'm in.
I mean, I was young at the time. I was 24.
Wow.
Like 23 when Nicole and I partnered. So I was young. I didn't really have a lot to lose. Like Nicole was married with 3 kids with a mortgage. She had way more to risk than I did at 23. Like there wasn't a lot for me, but so we loaned the money from our parents. Like I borrowed half, she borrowed half. We put in a little bit that we had. And And we found this space and we started renovating it. We got got the keys. It was just all going really well, wrote up our partnership agreements, all that just kind of started trekking along. And then this is going to take a bit of a morbid turn here, but 2 weeks after we got the keys to the space, my dad died. Like suddenly he had a heart attack and died, and he was doing the renovations in the space. So it was just like this huge change. And looking back, that could have gone really badly, but I just put myself into the studio, and we had so many people help us get the space ready. Like, people were flying in from across the country to just pitch in and help. And Nicola and I's relationship really strengthened. It's a situation that either is going to make you or break you, and it totally made us. And I still feel so grateful for everything that she did for me at that time. She was rock solid. But it wasn't the best start to our studio. We opened our doors 2 months after that, and it was a bit of a blur that first year.
That's an amazing story. And also to know that are you still in that same studio?
Yeah.
So you're in the space that your dad built.
Yeah.
Totally. Which is like,
yeah. That's like a real heart place.
Oh yeah. My heart just went like, and going through that first year in that blurry way, now you've got this really amazing business. It's been, what has it been, 8 years, did you say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got this moving, and now you've got a great business partner. You have, what is the best thing about the studio now? Like 8 years later, just fast forward us. I know Raquel, I'm going off topic and you can go back on topic after, but in my mind, I'm like, this is such a wonderful, like, this inception phase. And then now, like, what is the thing that brings everyone into that studio? Like, what do people say about the studio?
I think definitely it's a community vibe. That's always been our focus, is we want everyone who walks in the door to feel like they're coming home, to feel welcome from every staff member, from the teachers. Just come as you are. Like, if you're feeling amazing, if you're grieving that day, whatever it is, just show up and we're here for you.
I love that.
No judgment.
I love that too. And I can attest to that feeling and that vibe. I would also say you have curated your teachers to perfection. I am very picky who I do yoga with. I have done yoga all over the world and I love my practice. Even though I did my yoga teacher training years ago, it was more for myself and I didn't really go into teaching. But through that, I really learned a lot, and I don't like doing yoga on my own because for me, it's like a moving meditation. So when someone else, like, people always ask me, they're like, why do you get someone to teach you? You know all of the things. I'm like, right, but then I have to be cognizant and think through all the things. Whereas if you have a really good teacher, you could literally close your eyes and move through a full yoga class because they'll walk you through every little movement of your body and they will remind you about that mind-body connection throughout the whole class, and that's very difficult to find. And I think you have such a beautifully curated, I have not worked with a single teacher at your studio, and I know I'm like somewhat new still, but who hasn't been very, very good at moving you through all of the different yoga things, even within aerial, which is like a world of its own because you're on, what do you call it? They're like little hammocks. Like, I don't know. And you're upside down sometimes and this and that. I don't know. What's the term for them?
Silks or hammocks. Yeah.
Silks. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Just beautifully curated team. How do you attract those people? Like, how do you attract and how do you keep those teachers?
Well, thank you, first of all, for the compliment. That's a huge compliment. Thank you, especially with you. You have such a strong practice. So
Aww,
to hear that warms my soul. I think a lot of it has to do with teacher training. We always look at where they took their teacher training, especially now on the West Coast. Yoga is really taking this fitness turn, hot, fitnessy, like burning butts yoga. We don't do that. We really believe that it's more about the mind body connection and the breath. And so we know what we're looking for in teachers, and that's who we hire. Who we fill our roster with. So there's just so many different styles of yoga. And it's really just finding teachers that have a similar philosophy to Nicole and I.
I love that because, I do kickboxing, I do running, I'm in the gym. I don't want my yoga practice to be a boot camp. Like, that's not what I didn't enter that studio to do a boot camp. If I wanted a boot camp, I would go do a boot camp. So I love what you're saying about that, because I have gone into classes before where it'll say something like hatha yoga, which, if anyone's unfamiliar with the terms, hatha yoga is like your real, what would you call it? Like your base yoga. It's kind of like the oldest base practice. And yeah, to go into a class that all of a sudden, like, I don't mind, obviously within your classes, it's not a yin yoga class. Like, you'll go to classes that are powerful, that use your muscles, that make you balance, but it's not about this high intensity cortisol producing class. Like, it's about bringing you back inwards, which for me is super important because I can live out here and I can be very high energy. So I need those classes, those more traditional classes, to pull me back in and realign and recenter. So I think that's awesome. But when you talk about aligning to your values, I mean, I imagine you must have honed your practice for finding and sussing out people who share those values, because I think a lot of times what happens is, and I've done this myself when I was young, you want a certain job. So you look at their website, which is just good research. Let's just be real. You look at their website and you say, okay, these are their values. Okay. And then you can regurgitate that because you know how to, and you like what they're doing. So maybe you really do love what they're doing, but you don't necessarily share all of the values. And I'm really curious how you're able to kind of see through that and really suss that out. Like, is it just intuition? Do you have like a series of questions that you use to dig into that? What do you do?
We usually just get them to teach us a yoga class.
Yeah, I guess that'll do it.
Yeah, that's really it. Is come teach us a yoga class, which is always a nerve-wracking situation for the teacher, and we try to ease their nerves. Like, this isn't an interview. We just want to get a taste for who you are. And because Nicole and I have done like a million yoga classes in our life, we know, like, usually within the first 5 minutes, I know if that teacher is going to be right for our studio. And they could be an amazing teacher and just not be the right fit.
Yeah.
How do you tell them if they're not, like, do you straight, like, after 5 minutes, are you like, get out,
stop,
leave? Yeah, that's all. It's, I'm just thinking of this as an audition. Like, thank you. We'll be in touch.
The thing about the working in the yoga industry is that everyone is so friggin' nice all the time. It's always just love and light and namaste. No, it really is. Like, you don't know. You would never do that. I would never do that. And also, I just have so much empathy for that situation too, because I've been in that situation. I know how nerve-wracking it is putting yourself out there and being the only one talking for an entire hour. It's yeah, you can say really stupid things sometimes. No, we just usually say, thank you so much for your time and we'll be in touch. And the teachers, because we have a full class roster right now, when we do hire a teacher, it's never like, okay, here's 5 classes. It's always, we'll put you on the sub list. And then if our current teachers need a sub, then you'll get slid in. It's hard to get a start actually as a yoga teacher.
Yeah.
Unless you just open your own studio.
Yeah, I can
Or, yeah,
imagine.
like I know when I first started in yoga, I was working at a yoga studio, so they were willing to bring me in as a teacher because they already knew me well. I'd been at their studio for years and working with them in reception. So I think that's a way, but I think people don't realize like it's a very saturated market. And then when you're coming straight out of training, you're very novice and the nerves are real. Like what you're talking about, even teaching like five friends can be really nerve-wracking. And then somehow you have to get that practice time so that, that repetition. I think unless you're kind of like surrounded by other yogis who maybe it would be awesome if you're in a situation where you all live in the same area and can practice together. I think getting your feet on the ground in the yoga world in Vancouver, I don't know about other areas, but in Vancouver specifically, is very competitive. And there's some absolutely incredible teachers here who really dominate the space, and it can be, you're right, really difficult to break into the industry.
Yeah, you
But
you shouldn't do it if you want to get rich.
yeah.
It's not like, and you don't get paid very much. And even as an owner, yeah, there's if I was doing it for the money, then I would have quit a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
tell me about aerial yoga, because I mean, Raquel, you were singing these praises for this class, but walk me through because I am not a yogi. I do my yoga for 10 minutes on the Nike training app, and that is the end of my my yoga. Tell me more. Tell me about aerial yoga and some of the benefits.
Yeah, it's so a class is usually an hour, and it's got the same crescendo as a yoga class. So you start with a bit of a warm up, you move through some more active poses, and then the peak is often either an inversion and like a long held inversion, because hanging upside down is really amazing for your spine. Talk
What
about
is
spinal decompression.
what's an inversion?
Upside
That you
down.
just
Like,
hang upside down.
cool.
Yeah.
I
And
like
then
that.
Yeah. And then the class ends with a shavasana, same as a yoga class.
But it's in a hammocky thing.
So the
Everyone's
so
in
the
their in
silk,
hammock.
exactly. Yeah. So the silk, it hangs from the ceiling and it's like a prop, the same way that you would use, a bolster, or, your mat even can be a prop. So you use it to kind of help your body in and up and out, and you stand on it and step on it. You put one leg in it, hang upside down from it. And then for Shavasana, you open it up like a big hammock and lay inside of
I'll go for that bit. I'll go that.
it. Totally.
Crawl
It's
into the.
so relaxing at the end when you're just in this because you feel so snuggled in. Not great for a claustrophobic person, I don't think, but like you get totally snuggled. It's really cozy. And you guys always have it nice and warm in there, which I love. But yeah, and it's also I know for my fiance and I, like for him, he's in rugby, so he's pretty tightly built. Although he did really good at the couples workshop. Like, I was really surprised with how flexible he was. But our hips are always so tight, and I have to say those inversions, and the work you do in the hammock, because it's also taking load bearing weight off, so you're more hanging in these poses. It's amazing for the hip flexors. That has been, and the lower back, which directly impacts your hip flexors. So on both sides, speaking of Nadia and balance, you're really able to kind of loosen that up. And both of us, days after our first aerial class, we're like, our hips are so movable.
Yeah.
So
It does provide a deeper opening in a lot of ways.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was going to ask is, so who would you uh like if someone was saying, okay, what kind of yoga is good for me? Who would you be like, Ariel? What type of people would benefit and why from aerial yoga as opposed to another type of yoga?
Honestly, anyone except it's more like who can't do it.
Mm,
There's this kind of small portion of people that just cannot do aerial. If you get motion sick,
Yeah.
like in the
okay.
car or on a boat, you cannot do aerial. Some people get sick even just walking into the room, and they'll know right away, like, no, this is not for me. If you don't, yeah, if you're, fairly able-bodied and you don't have, even if you do have some injuries, but you're not riddled with injuries, you've got good body awareness. Yeah, aerial is awesome. It's so great. It can be really fun and playful and can make you feel like a child, which is amazing. And also it can be very therapeutic for your spine, for your hips.
Yeah,
there's a lot of benefits.
I like
the
the
opening
fun part,
thing.
the childlike part.
Yeah,
I'm a forever child.
Yeah, Raquel will just run at puddles if possible. Just
Yeah.
thing to play on.
I think we all need more of that. Adulting is hard. We
right?
need to play.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so that brings me into adult play, which is, that sounds so different than how I meant it to sound. We're keeping it G-rated, but for the couples workshop, I really wanted to get into that with you because, Jean and I basically, I think this is not an uncommon story, but I basically signed Jean and I up and I was like, hey babe, P.S. your Valentine's gift to me is we're going to this 2-hour yoga workshop and it's on like building intimacy and play and this and that, and he just kind of looked at me and smiled. He's pretty adventurous himself, so he was like, and he knows me, I'm very insistent. So
we're going.
Yeah, it was just gonna happen, and I would have kept bringing it up over and over until he did it. So he basically just laughed and he was like, oh, like with other people around? That was his first question. Like, we're building intimacy with, and there's other people in the room. Okay. And then
how intimate are we gonna be here, honey?
What kind of Valentine's Day is this?
Yeah. This is either gonna be the best or the worst Valentine's.
You should have told him it was naked yoga.
I think he would have been like, if it's one-on-one, yes. If it's other people, like oh my gosh. And then it kind of was naked yoga because, I mean, it wasn't really, but like for him.
It wasn't.
No, just. Preston's like, no,
you scare people off.
No, but he ended up forgetting his workout shorts. So he had these, like, it was hilarious. It was after our photo shoot. We had a huge day. So basically we tried to put all of our content creation days into one, especially when I'm in town. This is the caveat to the story. And I made Jean come with us also as part of my Valentine's Day gift. He was our content guy for the day. So he came around with us and got all this background footage. And so we had been gone like all day since first thing in the morning. We had photo shoots, we had meetings, we had all of these things. And then we went straight to the class. And I was like, this is a perfect way to end such a busy class. Like some play, some chill. But it turned out he had forgotten his shorts. So he was like, well, I have my tights. And so he just had these, like, they're like the equivalent of yoga pants on women, but it was for a guy and they were white.
Yeah, I remember them.
Yeah, how could you not remember that? I was like,
it's so funny that you bring this up because my husband is still talking about John's white pants. It came up like yesterday. They're epically rememberable, yeah.
That's
so
Jean,
everything.
I'm so sorry, Jean, that this is happening right now.
I don't even know.
I admire his confidence with those white pants. I don't have the confidence to wear tight white pants.
I don't have the confidence to buy tight white pants. I just don't even have I can't. I walk past them in a store and I go, no.
And he just strode in there like he hadn't forgotten his shorts. Like, you wouldn't have known that he didn't wear those all the time.
No.
Like, he just was like, yep, here for the yoga.
Yeah. That's so funny. I'm so glad you brought that up.
So great.
And the whole time I was like, oh my gosh, I can.
So the lesson of building intimacy is now done before you've even started. You're like, well, you're willing to do this. This is going to go well. Our partnership is solid.
Oh yeah. No, he's there. He's there for the experience for sure. But no, it was a fantastic class. It was the first time I've ever done a couples yoga workshop. So that was really cool. A cool experience. And there were so many interesting parts to it. So first of all, I just wanted you to guide us into like the background of how you started doing these and why you started doing them. And then I'll ask my billions of questions after because I don't want to bombard you right away.
We haven't been doing them for that long, just a couple years. We actually started I mean, we've been taking couples yoga classes for years, but we only started teaching them at the beginning of the pandemic,
Okay.
virtually, because everybody was stuck at home and it was just a way to something to do with your partner. And we started doing them, and we
Cool.
just even started teaching them for free for friends. And it was all our friends from around the province that would join in. And now that we're back in studio, we're teaching them live. Well, I teach them.
Oh,
He's kind of I say he's my model. He just
yeah.
kind of comes and helps me.
No, I love that. Okay, so pandemic, I mean, that's already such an important note to make because I know we talked to therapists and relationship experts at the beginning of the pandemic talking about how difficult it was to be in such a small space to like with each other for a lot of people, especially, you know, people living in cities. You're in like a one bedroom apartment oftentimes and you're stuck there for like months and months and months together. A lot of people were working from home, so you were constantly in each other's space. Other people were talking about how it was difficult because you either felt like you had to be constantly present with someone because they're always there. Um, and then I think other people, it's like you kind of end up doing things in the same room, but like avoiding the connection part because that's the only way for you to get alone time. So the idea of doing couples yoga, I think, is during the pandemic is such a cool concept because it really brings you back together and kind of paints your space in a different light. Um, so that's really neat. And what is so important? Like, why did you guys start going to couples yoga? Why did you find it so important? And what made you think like, okay, we need to start bringing this to other people?
It's just fun. It's fun. That's really just it. It's a good way to do something of quality with your partner. Like you said, you know, especially we have two little kids. So for us, it's just always the daily grind. It's like, okay, grocery shopping, dinner, get the kids bathed, but like bath every day. It's kind of on repeat. And if we don't set dates to go do something together, then we end up losing Gary and Preston. You know, we end up just being kind of mom and dad all the time. So anytime we have a date, always trying to do something fun together that bonds us. And couples yoga does that. It's playful, it's intimate, it's fun. There's lots of laughter. It's such an amazing way to bond.
Yeah. Why did I start like, okay, at the very end, we did this thing where we had to look left eye to left eye. And at first I was doing it fine, and then something happened. Oh, because you said wink to show them which one is your left eye because you're sitting across, obviously, like opposite. And something in me just broke. Like I was so good the whole class, and I was shaking. I was laughing so hard. And I was trying, and every time I tried to stop laughing, it made my laughter worse. And then I'm like, it's like when you can't stop, but then you look at someone across from you, and then it's even harder to stop. And I was just like racking my brain trying to bring it back to reality to stop laughing because this is like the most calming, supposed to be the most calming part of the class, and I could not stop laughing. What happened to me? Why did I break?
It happens a lot, actually. It happens all the time. You'd be surprised. The eye gazing, I've done that meditation with different groups too, not just couples, but with complete strangers.
No.
And it's always interesting to see who starts giggling. There's always a giggler. There's usually a few gigglers, but there's always at least one. And sometimes they can't stop for like 20 minutes. There's no break in the laughter. And other people start crying. There's always just
Yeah.
this emotional response to eye contact, especially when you're forced to hold it for
Yeah.
several minutes. It's intense. Teaches you a
It
lot
is
about yourself.
intense. And Jean, I don't know, like I've always found this, he has a very intense presence and a very intense eye contact. So maybe that's why too. I don't know. Or maybe it was the left eye to the left eye. I don't know. But something broke. I did end up reeling it in. I did in the end, but I was oh my gosh.
I love it. I love it when people get giggly. The best.
It's so great that you created a space for you to play around that, and you know, whether it's laughing or crying, it's just acknowledging that emotion.
Yeah. Yeah. That it's okay to have either. So I mean, I know now what to expect from a couples yoga class, but for someone who is listening who has no idea what to expect, what can they expect from a yoga couples class?
Well, you don't need to be a yogi. I think that's the most important message, especially for the male partners. You don't need to be this like flexible, pretzel-y, we're not gonna in a couples yoga class. It's really just all about fun and play and connection. And I think I say that usually at the beginning, like my intention for you guys is just to laugh together. That's it. So if you can't do any of the poses and you end up just sitting there making eye contact and giggling like school children, then you've nailed it.
I love that. And I have to say, the other thing I noticed in the class is you hit on almost all the love languages. So at the end of the class, both people, I think, at least that was our experience, is that you feel super full. Like you feel like your cup is very full because you get each other to kind of whisper sweet nothings, lovely sayings in each other's ear, and then the other person repeats that back, and just that action was actually almost, it was so vulnerable, like especially like listening to someone say something really loving to you and then switching that and saying it back to them. It wasn't like we were mirroring their words, we were actually repeating what they said. So it's ensuring that you're hearing what they told you. And that mean and I think for, I don't know if this is just for women or if it's for women and men, but I know for me it was almost like embarrassing to repeat back what he loved about me or something. Like whatever, you had a few that you were taking us through, but there's almost this sense of like, oh, I can't say that. I can't say what he just said to me. And I thought that was so powerful. And then you have the massage. And so there's the touch. There's words of affirmation. There's acts of service because, you know, massage also is acts of service. There's play. Like there was just so many of the love languages. I don't know what they all are. I did once, but there's so many of them that one class touches on that we left both of us just feeling like, wow, we're like, you really deposit in that bank account, which I think makes you so much stronger moving forward because you're like, okay, all of these great things have happened. Now, if there was something that would have otherwise ticked you off, like someone didn't take out the garbage or I don't know what ticks people off, but you know, something happens later, at least all of those deposits have been made and you're feeling the love, and I think there's a lot more leniency within the relationship.
Yeah, the five love languages has been so foundational for Gary and I in our relationship, and just learning that we don't maybe communicate love in the same way and learning how to speak each other's language, essentially.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
hard.
any couple can benefit from learning about that and learning about what their love language is.
And the five love languages are words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch, acts of service, and receiving gifts.
Yeah.
So pretty much all of that is encompassed in couple yoga. Couples yoga, because it maybe not gifts, but like you've got the words of affirmation, you've got the touch, you've got acts of service, you've got, I'm missing one that you just said.
Quality time.
Quality time.
Quality
It
time,
is
yeah.
it is quality time.
Yeah.
And then there was one other.
The gifts. Sometimes
gifts.
every class is a little bit different. Sometimes we'll do like a little love note, and then you have to write the note in the class, and then you have to find a place to stash the note in the next 24 hours. We didn't do it on Valentine's Day, but
That's
yeah,
so
sometimes I'll
cute.
do that one. Yeah, because gifts doesn't necessarily need to be like, oh, I'm going and buying you
Like a
something. It's
monetary
more like
gift,
just
yeah.
something that I'm giving you. It doesn't need to be, yeah, doesn't need to be a piece of jewelry.
I love that the foundation of using those love languages to create a physical activity that engages you and your partner, especially because I think a lot of times we don't invest in a relationship in that way. People tend to go to a therapist if there is a problem. It's like this is like the equivalent of prehab. You know,
Yeah.
it's being proactive about your relationship, and it's really interesting because I think this is a really important foundation for you that Raquel and I have spoken about so much with various people and around in and around relationships, but it's not a common thing to talk about how to enrich a relationship with your partner, I don't think. And I think generationally, culturally, I don't know about you two, like I don't know how you were brought up, and I think everyone, no matter where they're from or what their relationships are, they're all so totally different. But we seem to be really afraid. Like as soon as Raquel was like, oh, we whisper something in each other's ear, and I immediately got anxious because I was like, whoa, I don't do that. So if someone is wanting to go and discover how to be more engaged, and let's say you have a partner that's never seen that side of you, what advice would you give them? Like, is there a different class, or is it, you know, how does that, how do you start that journey with the person you're with?
Honestly, go to couples counseling. That's like so many of the skills that Gary and I learned, and a lot of the stuff that we talk about in the couples yoga class is from couples therapy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that there needs to be anything wrong with your relationship to work on your relationship. We just want to be the best. We want to be amazing together, and we want to thrive together, and we want to continue to show up for each other. And that's why we go to therapy. I think it's important to normalize it. That doesn't need
Yeah.
to be like you're breaking and you're getting a divorce. Like, you know, it can just be that you want to be stronger together.
Mm-hmm. And this, with your partners, the partner workshop that you do you have people who have never been? Like, what does that look like? Paint me that picture. Are they people that come all the time? They're there every week. Like, who are the types of people that are showing up apart from Raquel and white trousered John?
And honestly, there's such a wide variety of people. Yeah, there's not one type.
And how does that look as far as their relationships? Because that's the other thing I wanted to, even for me. So I love doing things that are outside of my comfort zone. So I will say right off the bat, because I didn't know Prestonne before. Had I already known Prestonne, I wouldn't have been outside my comfort zone at all. Because I would have been like, oh, I'm going to jive with this class, no problem. But I literally like saw this on your website, or no, I think it was on a door in the yoga studio. There was a poster for it, and I was like, we're going to do that. I had never done a couples yoga class. I didn't really know how intimate we were going to get. And I'm not the best person at being vulnerable, especially in front of other people. Like, I can be vulnerable with Jean, but sometimes it even takes us like getting away. Like, I'll be like, let's go for a hike. And when we're at the peak of the hike, I'm like, I can be vulnerable. So, I think for me, that was like a big step of vulnerability to be able to be there and have that connection. But we're at a point in our relationship where we feel really comfortable now being vulnerable together. Like, I'm not embarrassed to be vulnerable with him anymore. It's even in front of other people. Like, we've kind of gotten past that point. But for people who feel like I'm not there yet, and that is kind of embarrassing, or I'm embarrassed to say something I love about my partner in front of other people, not that you're saying it out loud, just PS. What would you say? Because I think there's all love is shown in all different forms, and you see that in those classes. So what would you say to those people who are kind of embarrassed or maybe want to do it but are a bit on the fence because they're scared?
don't know, just do it. Just do it. It's always the situation where it's the female in a hetero situation. The female partner is like dragging the male partner. So that always seems to go that way. It's never the opposite. Um, I feel like having Gary there calms their nerves right away because Gary's not a yogi. He's
Hmm.
a firefighter. He's like the alpha male type guy. He's not wearing tight white pants. He's just like a normal dude sitting there, like not in a great posture, kind of like, sup, welcome. So I think he right away makes the male partners feel a little more relaxed when they walk in and less intimidated. Um, and you don't need to be, I think the other misconception is that you need to be super flexible to do the class, and you don't. Anyone can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Just do it. Just do it. Why not?
Just do
Life's
it.
short. Just
And I
do it.
will say, like, when you're doing it as someone who's gone to the class now, you don't, because maybe people are feeling like, oh, I don't want other people looking at me or seeing how I interact with my partner. Maybe they feel that's very private because different cultures and stuff feel differently. Um, I would say there was no point in that class that we had any time or want to be aware of anyone else. Like, you're very much, you feel like you're in this bubble. So if you're afraid of other people looking at you or uncomfortable that way, nobody is. Like, well, I found there was no point when I was aware of what other people were doing. So,
Yeah, it's low lights, candlelight. It's just all about you and your partner and connecting.
I love that. It's such a good class.
It's fun. It really is. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. Okay, I want to ask you. We're navigating far, far away from couples yoga now. Sorry, guys, we had to put that in the box. But I want to talk to you about business because one, I love the concept that you started this company with a friend who you didn't even know necessarily for a huge amount of time, and then kind of took the risk and moved forward with this concept. And now you guys kind of seem to take another risk, and mid pandemic, you acquired a new yoga studio in Maple Ridge or Pitt Meadows. Pitt Meadows. Um, what gave you the confidence to say, okay, let's take this risk? And what were the challenges you faced? Because I'm sure there were tons throughout COVID to get this off the ground.
Yeah. Well, so we've been looking for a second space for a while now. Pre-pandemic, we were wanting to grow and expand. And throughout 2020, even we were looking for a second space. We were super conservative through the pandemic. We saved and penny pinched and didn't take a salary, and we were just very conservative. And then this studio that we did end up acquiring, the owner was a friend and she was looking to sell, and she approached us. And Nicole had taught there a few years ago. We knew the community, and it just was an opportunity that felt right for us. It's close for both of us to home. Like we both live right between the two studios, which is kind of
Amazing.
perfect. It just felt right. It really did. And we were lucky enough to be able to do it financially, because of course a lot of businesses, especially in the fitness industry, did not survive the pandemic. It's been
Yeah.
very hard.
Even massive companies. Like, a lot of companies have had a really tough time. So you're saying that you were very conservative through the pandemic. I just want to dig into that a little bit more. Were you proactively conservative, saying, okay, this is a crazy time, for the foreseeable future, let's just like stop everything we can, in terms of finances, let's go as lean as we can, and let's get through this? Or were you like, let's create a nest egg of savings, so if something happens, we have that money to help us through this next while?
Yeah, we had a nest egg already. Like the pandemic started in March 2020. Luckily for us, January, February, March are some of our best months for sales. If the pandemic had happened in August, it would have been a really different situation because the summer is a lot slower. So we were just able to kind of coast. And of course, you know, within a week we pivoted and we were running virtual classes, and we had at the time 6 years behind us. So we had a really loyal following that stuck with us. And we were just, yeah, we were conservative. We stopped all spending. And like I said, there were several months where Nicole and I did not take a paycheck. And that's just the sacrifice that you make when you own a business. There's a lot of that.
I think that's so smart, though. I know for Christina and I with Bombshells, for us, it wasn't that we had it going and then the pandemic hit and something changed and we pivoted, but for the first, it's been over a year now, and we've only invested into it. So we have a certain, idea in mind of where we want it to go. So we said, okay, we're solely investing into it. Any income that has come from licensing or anything else has just gone back into either supporting our team or supporting the vision of where we want it to go. And we've gotten really creative with how we've navigated that and made that function. I do think there's a point in time when you have to pivot and then you have to pay yourself because you do a lot of work. But I do think having that nest egg, and that's what we talked about as well, we wanted to have a real nest egg there in case anything happened, in case we have this incredible opportunity that we just want to grab. You want to have that there before you start, well, in our opinion, before we wanted to start paying ourselves. We wanted to have this little bit of like funds for either a rainy day or an incredible opportunity, which it sounds like is what happened with you guys. So congratulations, that's so exciting.
Thank you.
You did a lot of work with that. So how did that come about? How long did it take you to get that studio up and running? I didn't see the studio before, but I heard there was a lot of changes. So walk us through that.
Yeah, so we made the agreement with the previous owner, Roxanne. We agreed to acquire her studio. It was about mid-November. We made the announcement late November, and then the plan was to close that space for the month of December and renovate and rebrand. There wasn't a ton of work that needed to be done, but we wanted it to feel like YogaGen. And so it was lipstick, mostly paint and floors and our logo and branding. And then the plan was to open January 2nd. And then of course the government closure extended that until January 20th. So the closures are actually a lot of work for us because we have to pause memberships and communicate with all the members and cancel classes and move people around. So it ends up being a lot of work when they close us. So we were closed for an extra 3 weeks, and then we were able to open January 20th, both studios.
Wow. Okay. Final thing I wanted to ask you about, as a yoga studio owner, what does your day look like? How much of it is in yoga? How much of it is in business? And how do you and your partner kind of split that? How have you decided to split that?
We definitely have our own roles that have taken many years to hone. It started out like both of us trying to do everything, and then we realized, no, it doesn't work well. We need to just have our own departments and focus. But Nicole and I talk on the phone twice a day at least. Like we're always in touch. It's always like, I won't talk to you till Monday. Oh, 1 hour later, here we are again. So she really is my wife in a lot of ways, my work wife. A typical day for me is, I don't know, starts around 7. Usually get up around 7, and I'm with my family in the morning, doing the kids' thing, getting them to daycare or getting them settled for the day. I usually sign in a class at one of the studios, work for a couple hours at the desk, teach a class, usually have a phone call or something in the afternoon. And then after my kids go to bed, that's when I usually sit down if there's work to be done still on the computer and work. It's hard when you own your own business to have just, there's no such thing as a 9 to 5. It's like if something comes up at 10 p.m., if I have time, I'm going to deal with it right away.
Yeah. Yeah, I find that too, but sometimes that's a blessing. Like I was actually talking to my sister. She's quite a bit younger. She's 16. She's 16, and she was telling me how she really likes to work late at night. And I was saying, because I'm working on my thesis right now, how it's really nice that I can structure my own hours. So when I was living in Amsterdam, I would throughout the day explore the city. And so that's when I would do my workouts, and I would just bike around the city or go for walks and find cute areas. And I didn't have to feel guilty about it. And then in the evenings, because I was living alone and there was no one to really distract, then I would do all of my work in the evenings. And so that worked out really, really well for me. Being home, that does not work. I'm just gonna say, there's too many people. Even when I'm living with my fiance and we're in the same country, that doesn't work. It's too hard.
It is. I love my work life. I feel like it's so much better than what I did do the 9 to 5 commute, because yes, there's days that I work 12-hour days, but then I can also take 3 weeks off if I plan and I want to. And like you said, I don't feel guilty about it. I get to have that flexibility. I wouldn't want it any other way. I love it.
And you get to take your kids to school. You're not rushing off to work. Well, maybe you are if you're teaching a class, but otherwise, you can have that. You can create those time pockets that mean the most to you so that your cup is filled the most. I think it just takes a little bit of introspection sometimes to figure out, okay, what means the most and what's going to make me the most fulfilled, because otherwise your life can start running you too.
Yeah, and it is, I think owning your own business is a lot of work, but it also doesn't feel like work.
Yeah, because you love it.
I love it. I'm so passionate about it. I would talk about it all day long. It's just something that fills me up. So it doesn't feel like I'm going to work.
Yeah. And what are the tasks more that you take versus your partner? Like, are you more, I'm guessing if you have a communications degree, you're probably taking a little bit more on the marketing side. And then what is she taking? More like HR? Or
she does a lot of the staff management and a lot of the customer relations, and she deals with the receipts, the books. She pays the bills. We do have a bookkeeper, but she kind of gets everything to the bookkeeper and the accountant, and I'm so grateful for that because it's not something that I ever have an interest in doing. And likewise, she is not a techie. She doesn't want to deal with the website and our scheduling system. I do all of that, and we have a really good balance. You definitely don't want to go into business with somebody who's the same person as you.
Does that sound familiar, Christina?
Yes, I have nothing to say to that. Just nodding. Just nodding.
That's our balance too. That's basically where it splits down. Yeah.
I think there's an interesting thing to point out as well for our fellow creatorpreneurs and entrepreneurs and people starting these businesses, is the communication piece is so important to identify, because there are things that what I've heard you say that echoes what Raquel and I say, is we both can do a bunch of things and we both can do multiple things that each other can do, but determining what's best for our personal sustainability and then what's best and what's necessary right now for the business is a really important, very transparent conversation that needs to happen. So for example, Raquel said something a while back where, she was like, I just love being that visionary. And I thought about it and I was like, yeah, so do I. And I don't get to do that. And neither does she in certain aspects of things. but knowing that we both feel in a certain way about it, and then saying it out loud to each other allows us to recognize and keep in check if there are things that we're currently doing, how to move that person away out of that if it isn't fulfilling and filling your cup. You know, so I think there's the conversation piece and the transparency in your business partnership is really important, because it allows you to then say, okay, you are doing this right now, but I recognize and I'm hearing you that it's not ideal for you to continue doing that. And that's then you start staffing differently and say, well, who can we get to do this if neither of us want to do it?
And if it's best for the business. I mean, we've talked about that recently too, right?
A perfect example that I have of that is social media. Neither one of us ever wanted to do it. It's just not where either one of us shine. And it just felt like such a burden. And then a few years ago, we were like, why are we doing this? Let's just hire somebody to take care of our social media. And it's been such a positive decision.
Game changer when you outsource the thing that neither of you like doing, so that you can do what my friend Mike always says, do what only you can do. And that's the ultimate goal, is to do the thing that it's like, you're the face of this company, you are doing this thing, this is the special sauce, you know?
Yeah. And I think it's a lot of trial and error. Like I think there was a lot of big learnings for us too over this past year, because we brought in people and had, you know, for a while it was like guest management and booking episodes and things like that. We had other people doing it. But a lot of times what I realized is that our personal touch, like us emailing, made all the difference. It was really difficult to book if one of us wasn't the ones doing it. You need to have that touch point with the host, because we're the ones that are actually going to be doing the episode, and there's just a personal touch. We also know our schedules, so when you're trying to navigate multiple schedules, like now it's like 3 people and sometimes it's up to 3 time zones, and you're trying to navigate that, and if someone else is to do that, that's just a lift we can't outsource. And we kind of learned that, like, there's no one who can really replace us in doing that. But then there's other things like, I want to give social media away too.
Yeah, it's time consuming.
Yeah.
It's so time consuming. Yeah. And but it's so essential, and you have to do it when you are running your own business. You have to.
Yeah.
I think.
Gosh.
So.
That reminds me of the other thing that you guys did so well that I wanted to compliment you on, the text messages. So after I signed up, I got like a little text message just basically checking in, seeing if I liked everything, if there's any questions that I could just text back. And I thought that was like, I was like, ooh, that's kind of the equivalent of a handwritten letter. Like, I like this. This feels very, very good.
Thank you. I didn't send that text message. It was automated.
I figured it was automated, but I was like, no, this really, I think what it does is it opens a platform to have a discussion. So if someone did have questions, or they, you know, whatever it was, it opens that safe channel, and they feel, even if it is automated, cared for, and they feel like they have a direct communication channel with you, which I think is really, really powerful. And right off the bat, I was like, oh, that's great. I've never had another yoga studio do that. I've had automated emails. I've never had an automated text message, and it was written really nicely, so it felt very personal, even though it was automated.
Thank you. It's hard to know with that stuff, because I don't like feeling like somebody's trying to sell me something. And so I'm always so aware of not wanting to bombard people with too much communication, because you don't want it to seem phony. But also, you know, here's my number. You can text me if you need me.
Right? That's huge.
But I'm not trying to sell you anything. And people do. Like, I had a guy just 2 days ago leave his phone at the studio and texted and from his wife's number and said, like, hey, can I come grab my phone? And it is kind of nice to be able to have that personal connection.
Yeah. I think so too.
But you don't want it to come across as inauthentic.
You definitely don't want it to go across. No. And I will say yours absolutely does not. It's actually very genuine and caring. I felt very taken care of. I loved it.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, you're such a gem. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I feel like I could talk to you forever, but I'm gonna see you for like an hour or an hour and a half in like an hour or an hour and a half. So
yeah, it's been amazing. Honestly, I love the stories of triumph through being, living in this fulfilling career, but then being able to navigate that through, your at-home partnership, your business partnership, motherhood, and then, doing it all with such a great kind of style about you and having such value-aligned team members of all kinds. So it's a hugely inspirational story.
Oh, thank you so much. I feel so honored to be here with the two of you bombshells.
Yay. Okay, well, we will speak to you soon. I'm looking forward to coming and trying out one of these classes at some point too. You'll just find me asleep in one of the hammocks. You'll be like, "What? Who is this person?"
Why did she move into our yoga space? Actually, I just want to make a note. You should check out their website because you seem to have a lot of workshops. So even if you don't live in the area to do necessarily yoga, if you live in the greater Vancouver area, you have incredible workshops. I'm going to a gong meditation one today. There was a couples one that we did obviously the other week, and I think the other one, I won't be in the country anymore, but I thought looked really cool, is a few weeks long, and that is I can't remember the title of it, but it's for your nervous system. So basically recalibrating your nervous system, which I think we've talked about a bit on the podcast, stuff like that before. So some really incredible workshops. I'm sure there's many more. But where can they find you?
Yeah, YogaGen.ca. That's our home online. And we do also have Instagram and Facebook. You can follow us. But yeah, if you want to book a workshop or a class or learn more about our studios, yogagen.ca.
Love it. Thank you so much, Prestonne. Thanks for listening, bombshells. In order to continue to elevate, subscribe and don't forget to click that little bell so you can get notified every time we have a new badass brunch. Until next time, stay focused, fierce, and fabulous.